Oh la la, I'm doing it again. So I write short stories at least one time a week, publish them on Substack and Patreon, and kind of blindingly obvious, but it would seem that it would be a good idea to narrate these essays and share them with you. So that's what I'm intending on doing. Intention, however, is anticipating the future. Last night I took the train from Montauk, which is literally the end of the line, and I came into Soho. I'm staying at the Soho Grand, and I had a little time to catch up. And yeah, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I am Hugh Hendry. I am the acid capitalist. And I got to tell you, those damn Instagram reels, they disappear. The likes, sometimes the likes arrive, and then they don't. And I move, in the summer, I move on to the next city. Today it's New York. The next trade, what would that be? The next thing, who will she be? Yes, it is another acid summer vacation. But this, right here, right now, with you, I mean, this is kind of where I return when all of the silly business has settled. My Substack and Patreon pages, I call them my fountainhead. Yes, I am thinking of Ayn Rand. Yes, that is AYN. I'm thinking of the spot, Galt's Glutch, perhaps, where the thinking happens after the performance is done. I call that again, I call that the gap in the curtain. Robert Buchanan. Go find that. It's a short little novel. And I believe it tells you more about finance and investing than any great 1,000-page text. Anyway, to me, the good days and the have I been castrated? No, the good days and the wow. Do you hear how I am struggling? The good days and the catastrophic ones. They all have the same texture at a distance. It's that distance that allows you to see them perhaps honestly. And what I write or what I speak to you here, this isn't a disclaimer. It isn't advice. It's certainly not a portfolio update. I hope, maybe you would indulge me and you could entertain the notion of it being closer to a letter, a love letter from a man who's been paying close attention and is still gazumped, is still surprised by what he finds every day. There are messages maybe in what I'm about to say, messages about markets, which, I mean, for me, they remain the longest, the most beautiful game ever invented, ever played. Every morning, the prices change. Every afternoon, every evening. I find that extraordinary. One great sports contest running continuously. No off season, no friendly matches. The stakes are real and the score is always visible. And the joy is we just never really know what's gonna happen next. I love that. And then there are messages from me about how to live, not extensively, not with confidence, just messages about things that you notice when you've been wrong enough times to stop defending the decisions. So, my brothers and my blessed sisters, you are You're not an audience. No, you're the people helping me work it out. And I offer you my love, the bisous, the French kisses to my comrades. Are you a comrade in curiosity? Anyway, that was preface. Shall we do this? This paper was called General Admission. Sunday night, and she asked if she could kiss me. We were standing outside at the bar at the Montauk Project, and she just said it. And I said, yeah, sure. It was the most direct conversation I'd had all weekend, which is either evidence that Montauk brings out honesty in people, maybe, or evidence, more likely, that I've been talking to all the wrong people all weekend. I'm sure it's a mixture of both. Earlier that day, we're talking Sunday, I'd been in the cheap seats. Yes, the asset capitalist had got the logistics messed up. Montauk is not St. Bart's. I am not the mayor. I'm not the president. I fucked it up. Yes, the hottest ticket on the East Coast on a Sunday with summer rapidly running out. And I get a general admission entry to the Surf Lodge. And that means something in Montauk. Let me tell you what it means. It means you're broke, or you're interesting, or you're both. Like if you get the general admin entry. I mean, it costs like $85. Actually, mind note, my host actually got me the ticket. They're wonderful. Anyway, names are not for sharing. But anyway, at the Surf Lodge, across from me, in the roped off section, in the terrace that I was denied entry to, there was a man, no older than I, and let's call him the Phantom, because he'd committed a minimum of $10,000. Remember, that's before you tip. For the table on the terrace, and he arrived with six, I have to say, spectacular. I have to say younger. I have to say ladies. But somehow the magic had gone. Something seemed absent from this guy's afternoon. The bottles, they kept coming. But he kept staring at his blasted phone, not occasionally and not guiltily, but continuously, with the concentration of a man waiting for another life to begin. I mean, here you are in the midst of heaven. And he's waiting for another life to begin. How sad. And around 7 in the evening, a chauffeured SUV, fancy black, it arrived. And he pocketed the phone. He nodded at really nobody in particular. And he left. He left for Manhattan. I really don't think he spoke a word all afternoon. It was the most expensive silent movie I've ever watched. I'm not saying this to mock him. It made me think. I say it because I recognize the move. I fear I've made it myself. I was going to say in trading rooms. I'm never in a trading room. I wouldn't know what to do in a trading room. But I've made it in love. And I have to say, love costs more. You build the position, and then you don't know what to do with it, her. So you hold it, or you hug and look longingly in her eyes. Anyway, shut up, me. Which is to say, you wait for the chauffeured resolution. You know, the guy in the Surf Lodge, the woman to his left, she said, I saw, I mean, it wasn't obsessing about this table. I promise you. But she said something to him around 5 or 6. Something light, something requiring almost nothing. And nothing is what she got. He looked up. He looked at her, smiled. And then immediately he looked back at his phone. And you know what? When I walked away from this, I walked straight into my ex-girlfriend. which I want to say confirmed everything I'd been already thinking about. She was with a group of people. She was on the terrace as well. Everyone was on the terrace except me. She was with a group of people that looked handpicked by her mother so that the poor girl might have some friends, imagine. And she had that specific happiness of someone who needs you to notice they're happy. Eesh. And yeah, we had one of those conversations that consists entirely of subtext. She was on the way to the loo. She had her back to me, and I was like, "What the fuck?" Our conversation was delivered through weak, strained smiles. It must have lasted no more than 90 agonizing seconds, and it covered a considerable amount of ground without mentioning anything at all. You know, there's a particular physics to running into someone that you loved and cared for greatly in a place where you came to forget them. My body, it does something the market would call like a limit down. You absorb the shock of their physicality, their presence. You try and keep poised to keep the face neutral. You say something that sounds like small talk, but really it functions as an exit. So I ordered another drink. What was a boy to do? The bartender, God love him, he didn't ask what had happened. Bartenders are better. I think they're better at this than most people I've ever paid professionally. And maybe it felt like closing a position. A position that I should have closed. Hey, a position that I've been trying to close for months. The thing about Montauk is that it functions also as kind of like a live demonstration of, that gap between the plan and the trade. Because I'm sure everyone arrives here with a narrative in mind. And it usually involves the bloody ocean. Some form of liberation. I was going to say libation, but that comes later. The specific quality of the light, and it's beautiful at that golden hour. The ocean, my friend, still honest. But the thesis of the many, always way more complicated than it needs to be. I swear I watched 3 separate people photograph the same gorgeous sunset at the Nantucket. It's a popular bar. Look straight at the sunset. And they took these people, there were more than 3. They took these pictures without once looking at it directly. The phone gripped between their face and the thing. Was it gripped? Do you grip a phone for your face? The phone was held between their face. That's better. And the thing they'd come to see. Oh, that's the sun. Yeah. So oh my God, the phone between their face. So the phone, was it helping or obfuscating? Again, it's not a criticism, it's a question. It's the dominant trait of the age. Experiences bought and immediately shared with a worldwide audience of 0 as evidence of that you actually had that experience. How sad. Which reminds me, the most instructive morning I ever had, it wasn't in Montauk. It was on live television, which I think is worse. In 2006, the bozos at the European Commission, they'd just blocked again the almighty sensible plan for Warner Music and EMI Music to merge. And there I was sitting in CNBC's London studio live with 20% of my fund's net asset value split across both stocks, which were being pummeled. 20%. That's not a rounding error. That's a conviction so large it bordered on certainty. It's not a good thing. And the floor didn't move in the studio, but I swear something in my chest did. My heart was thumping as the share price crumbled. But again, brothers and sisters, you know what? I held my TV poise and I finished the segment. I nodded thoughtfully, whilst inwardly I was doing the kind of maths that makes your vision go slightly white at the edges. I was like, oogie, 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 what have we done? Yeah, that morning became my baseline test for composure. Can you fake it? Can you smile at people who are watching you calculate the damage done? Not by the needle, but by the bloody European Commission. And I found out that morning in 2006, I think it was June, I found out that the answer is yes. I could smile at people who were watching me as I calculated the damage done. But I got to tell you, it's not cost free. There's something you never get back. Oh well. The farmer trade costs something different. I blew it up around the same period. I had a brilliant young Turkish analyst, and he convinced me of his omnipotence. And foolishly, I had 300 basis points of NAV, not 20 percentage points, but 3 percentage points, resting on trial drug data. I had no edge, none whatsoever, except the kid. And when the results eventually came out, and they came back. They came back Are you listening? They came back WRONG, wrong. This one of those moments. Let me say this deliberately. The stock didn't fall. It disappeared, cratered, gone. And the lesson isn't about the analyst. The kid was doing his job. The lesson is that certainty and position size, they're not the same thing. And confusing them only produces a specific kind of slow motion disaster where you can see exactly what's happening and you can't stop any of it. It's the same feeling as watching a conversation with an ex last 90 seconds when it should have taken 4 years. It should have taken a lifetime. The timing is impeccable. It's the arithmetic which is brutal. Now, I think about the German Empire a great deal. I do. I went to the Caprivi Strip in November 2008. I was fresh from navigating and profiting from the bankruptcy of the global banking system. Heavens, was that a modest gloat? Modest? I think I was just gloating. But I felt the need to visit a thin ribbon of Namibian desert that the British traded Zanzibar for in the 1890s. Zanzibar, back then, it was a spice trading powerhouse. And the Strip, the plan, the Germans, Namibia was their only African colony. And the idea was to link it with the Zambezi River via the Strip, open a route into the African interior. And I swear to God, on the map, the logic was impeccable. But what nobody at the negotiating table had thought to mention was the bloody Victoria Falls. 350 feet of God saying 9. I said 9 a lot on one trip back in the day with a group of commodity investors. I found myself in a helicopter in the front seats with a mad Belgian Navy pilot ace. And he took us down the Zambezi River, and we were like, it felt like the blades were inches away from the edges of that wonderful waterfall. And I mention it because the Caprivi Strip now sits almost as a monument, at least to me, to the quality of confident reasoning in the absence of objective truth. Smart men with good maps, but a fatal misunderstanding of the terrain. Anyone, do I hear it? The conceit, the arrogance of a well-formed argument. Boeing, not boring, maybe it is boring, but Boeing is the same story with a different body count. Boeing built an aircraft that didn't want to fly. They hacked a 50-year-old airframe to take bigger engines. They shifted the center of gravity. They wrote software to compensate for the physics that they changed. And when the software misfired, the plane fought the pilot. There were 2 fatal crashes, 346 desperate souls lost. Then the narrative machine from the press arrived and converted engineering failure into corporate villainy and incompetence. Incompetence, certainly, there was a lot of. Villainy, less sure. Villainy is the cleaner story, easier to televise. Anyway, you can imagine, the stock collapsed. And actually, if you ever I look at these things, I like 20 and 40 days, months, quarterly. I use quarterly stock price candles so I can get all of the data. It is remarkably rare. You are in the dog shit house if your share price these are mean reversion points. If your stock price mean reverse to the 40 month or the 40 quarter moving average, you are experiencing, let's hope you're experiencing a glitch. I'm going to talk about glitches. But that Boeing price on the correction, it went 50% below the 40 quarter moving average. Very rare that you see that. It's now back at the averages, so it's recovering. I called it the glitch. Forgive me, I'm trying to get my mind focused. As I look outside, beautiful sunny weather. It's 3 p.m. I'm in Soho. I haven't even had breakfast. Okay, so what do I want to say? I want to say we all pretend. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could see the future? Mostly we're guessing. We're dressing the guessing conviction spreadsheet bullshit, hoping the price moves before the thesis falls apart. I say to you, what is asset capitalism? You have to elevate the mind to see the future. Let's elevate our mind. Let's elevate our mind. Boeing is one of those rare cases where the future is arguably legible to us mere mortals. I want to say to you, in 20 years' time, there will still be only 2 companies building commercial aircraft jets at scale. And they'll still be Boeing and the Europeans, Airbus. I don't want to call this a forecast. This is aerodynamics and 60 years of precedent, new supply chain and governments being the mode. Who made Boeing? Who made Airbus? Who made Coca-Cola? Governments. Who made Tesla? Governments. Anyway, with regard to the commercial jets, no one's building a third company. Boeing still makes Air Force One. The backlog runs into the next decade. It's the kind of visibility that's almost never available. And when it is, and when the stock is weighed down, sitting on the ass of mean reversion, you kind of want to be curious about buying the glitch. Not yet. The chart hasn't quite sent the invitation. But soon, this is the preparation. I want to say ex-girlfriends, tricky. Tricky, believe me, tricky. But a glitch in a great business, that's considerably easier to forgive. Talking of which, Bayer is the more complete corporate tragedy because it was fucking avoidable. The Germans, just like the strip in Namibia, they chose it freely and with great enthusiasm. Forgive me if you're German. $63 billion spent acquiring Monsanto. You know, at the time it was run by a Scotsman, and he was called not Hugh Hendry, but he was called Hugh Grant. He was not the actor. But there was much in the way of comedy from what followed, because Bayer paid 4 times revenue. No visible hesitation. Yep, we're in. We own the chemistry that feeds the world. Monsanto was, the genetic engineering of the crops and how we deal with population growth. Roundup was something not so good, something you don't want to eat. So the Germans, they already knew this was moving through the American court system. What they were less hot on was this theory about Roundup, this weed killer, and the specific legal principle that a company, this is very woke, the company ought to have, they should have known, should have known about possible carcinogenic properties contained within Roundup. So they should have known, they did know, but they didn't warn the customers. And that turned out to cost considerably more than the deal. $18 billion in litigation, and we're still counting. The enterprise value of what Bayer paid for Monsanto is gone. Boom, boom, boom. Eviscerated it. I'm using that word after I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to look that word up. Just you hold on a second. Yeah, destroyed completely fucked. Just wanted to check because people use this word decimated. Do you know where that comes from? That was when the Romans were on the rampage and they were not as ruthless on the battlefield as they cared for, or as is their norm. And so the centurion, a man who leads 100 men, a unit of 100 men, he would select every 10th member and chop their heads off. That's where the term decimated comes. It's a reduction. It's a 1 in 10. Just like the job losses at HSBC. Boom, boom. All links together. Right. Bayer. What are we saying here? We are saying that these should-haves costing a great deal of money. And literally, all the money they paid for Monsanto literally just being wiped out from the market cap of Bayer. Well, I've been walking through this wreckage recently. Again, there's no invitation from the chart to start buying yet. But the agricultural charts are beginning to make a sound. And Bayer and Boeing, both begin with B, they ran the same program, a confident thesis, the arrogance and conceit, one might say, of a well-formed argument, and then a liability that arrived in a language that nobody at the table had been reading. You bloody fools. The difference is Boeing still has the government and no real alternative competitor or new alternative approaching competitor, whereas Bayer has a glyphosate and it has a great many lawyers. I'm going to look at the chart now. I'm going to pause. Hold on. Yeah, I just checked. I was looking at the ADR. The ADR fell from like 90%, from $40 to $4, and recently been on a tear to 14. So both of these stocks have now rallied back to, well, the remarkable thing was the crash took them way below the most extreme form of mean reversion that you typically experience in the stock market. That would be either 40 months or 40 quarters. 40 quarters, what's that, 10 years? It fell 50% below those levels, but now it's rallied. So Bayer and Boeing are trading at their 10-year moving average, one could say. No invitation to buy just yet, but we're now thinking about it. Just like the man at the surf lodge on Sunday, the Boeing board of 2017 and my German friends made the same mistake on very different exchanges. What is the mistake? Let me pretend I'm a Japanese salaryman having a cigarette. They confuse the position with the outcome. They confuse the entry with the thing itself. You can have the 10,000 minimum for that VIP table. You can have the supermodels and the brand. But none of it converts to anything if you're not actually in the water, if you're not actually present. Smile, my friend, smile. The sufferers, my sufferer. I used to call myself a sufferer. I think I'm beating a retreat. I tried, that 10,000 times for competency. I got stuck on 1,673. I think I took the board to the water in St. Bart's. The water was pleasantly warm. The waves were terrifying. But it was a shelter. It was a safe place when quite frankly, I was feeling very sad because, I was getting divorced, and before the divorce, I didn't realize, but yeah, I was having to spend a lot more time on my own, and the water and the waves gave me that. But the writing's my passion. It's likewise. I wish I could spend more time learning to play the bass. Oh my God, bass guitar and lessons. The best meditation I have ever done. Anyway, surfers are never at the surf lodge because they're out there where the water corrects you directly. No need for lawyers or press releases or a chauffeur waiting at 7 p.m. And I'm hesitating because also the surfers could not friggin' afford the surf lodge. But do you know what? In a great form of the universe being your friend, the universe finds a way to get those kids in. There definitely was a few of the surf kids. I know them and I love them. So where are we? We got lawyers, press releases, chauffeurs, surfers. Where did we begin? The girl at the bar. She understood this entire epiphany of mine. She understood it the same way. She didn't know who I was, which is probably why she asked. It's probably why she asked. Yeah. She didn't ask who I was, just asked to kiss. Zero positioning, zero performance of asking. The ex-girlfriend, she knew exactly who I was, which is why 90 seconds seemed to cover everything and nothing. The Montauk Lighthouse. It sits at the end of the point, and it's watched thousands of us idiots arrive with our stories and our minimum spends and our exes and our very considered indifference to the thing we came to see. The lighthouse keeps its mouth shut, unlike me. The water does the same. The water, the water, the water. You know what? I got in. The essay is over. I am Hugh Hendry. I am the acid capitalist. I hope you find something in these talks of mine. I wish you would all reach out and say hi. You can say hi on Instagram, Hugh Hendry Official, on YouTube, Hugh Hendry Official, on the Twitter, XX, on @Hendry_Hugh Hendry. Like, think of a hen being dry, a dry hen, a hen dry, a Hendry. Oh my God, what am I talking about? And of course, this all started as a paean, as a love letter to the Fountainhead, to the wonderful folk who subscribe to my Patreon and Substack pages. Don't be a stranger. I hope I'll be able to publish one or two more of these. I have to warn you, there is a cloud of madness descending my way, which is Burning Man, which will occupy me for most of next week. Anyway, over and out. I love you all, my fellow acid capitalists. Until the next time, it's goodbye from the acid capitalists. Bye bye, bisous, bisous, bisous.